So, I told you guys last week, you never really get what you want in sports. But I think I had an epiphany today. And I remember mentioning this yesterday after hearing Tony Romo say, everyone got what they wanted. Brady versus Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted. But maybe it was what everybody else wanted. This is why I don't like speaking for you guys out there. Because a lot of times, I think I know, but I really have no idea. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 133rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Got a lot to get to today. Obviously, the bulk of the show is going to revolve around Championship Sunday. And I thought it was 1.5 fantastic football games. Okay, the nightcap should have been the first game. I think they alternate, each year that the AFC goes, last, and then the next year the NFC goes last. So they alternate which conference goes with the nightcapper. I would honestly like to see them just say, hey, which one's going to net us the best ratings? Let's put that one last. That's what they should have done this week or this year. And I would like them to do that into the future. It's not going to happen. This is tradition. This is what they've always done. And I knew the Bills game wasn't going to be as entertaining. I thought that they would, be competitive, and they were for the most part, but they weren't going to beat the Chiefs. It was the first game that I thought had a chance to go in a different direction. And I think I said this. I'm not sure if I said this or not. Feel like I did, but sometimes these things all run together. But I told you, we don't get what we want. And kind of want to amend that statement because I didn't get what I wanted. I can't speak for any of you out there, and I shouldn't do that. And every time I do, I look like a dumbass. So I'm going to go ahead and retract that statement and put this one back out into the atmosphere. I didn't get what I wanted. Okay, I wanted Rodgers versus Mahomes. You might have wanted Brady versus Mahomes. You might have wanted Brady versus Allen. You still didn't get what you wanted if that's what you wanted. There were a lot of, I told you, take out Bills fans, take out, Bucks fans. I thought the vast majority of us wanted Rodgers versus Mahomes. That doesn't seem to be the case, though. As I sit here, and Tony Romo said this very succinctly at the end of the CBS telecast. As the Chiefs were putting the finishing touches on the Bills, he said, everybody got what they wanted. This is what everybody wanted to see. Brady versus Mahomes. And I'm like, actually, Tony, that's not what I wanted to see. I've already seen this 4 times. Saw it this year, as a matter of fact. This isn't brand new. This isn't something different. I don't need to see this again. It's cool, but I've already watched this. It's like another Friday. I've seen 3 of them already. It's cool if you come out with a 4th one. I want to watch it, but I don't have to have another one. I've had 3 of them, and they've been pretty good, all in their unique, different ways. I'm good. I don't need another sequel. I wanted something fresh and brand new, but I think I might have been alone in that. I don't really feel like the masses were on my side. I feel like I was kind of out on an island. Because as I listened to all the pundits and I listened to all of the talking heads, I listened to all the former players, and then I listened to a lot of you last night, a lot of you seemed pretty damn stoked for Brady versus Mahomes. And I was like, I'm not as excited as you are. So maybe I was alone in that. Doesn't matter. It's going to be a hell of a football game. I can't wait. Bart Scott can't wait. There was no way that we could go wrong as long as Mahomes came out of the AFC side of the bracket. There was no way we could mess this Super Bowl up. If it was Rodgers versus Mahomes, Packers versus Chiefs, hell of a football game. Can't wait to see it. If it's Brady versus Mahomes, the Bucks versus Chiefs, Hell of a football game. Can't wait to see it. There was no way to mess it up on the NFC side. No matter who won that game, we were going to get a marquee name at the quarterback position and a damn good football team accompanying that quarterback. We weren't going to be able to mess it up on the NFC side of the bracket. It was only on the AFC side where things could get a little dicey, and I don't want to demean the Buffalo Bills or anything that they've done this season. But it would have been the equivalent of the Denver Nuggets beating the Los Angeles Lakers last year in the Western Conference Finals. First of all, let me say, nobody watched that in NBA Finals anyway, other than Lakers fans and Heat fans. Nobody watched those finals anyway. That being said, nobody really would have watched if the Denver Nuggets would have somehow found a way to beat the Los Angeles Lakers. As long as the Lakers were in the finals, there was no way the NBA was going to be able to mess it up. They would have much preferred the Boston Celtics versus the Lakers. They could sell that and market it a lot more than Heat versus Lakers, but it didn't really matter. Whatever team came out of the East, it was going to be fine as long as the Lakers were there. Same thing this year. It didn't really matter which NFC team came out. They were going to do just fine. As long as Mahomes was there, you know, if the Bills would have won, it would have felt like the Nuggets beating the Lakers last year. You're like, kind of wish you didn't do that. Really like the Bills. Think their future is really bright. I think that's a hell of a football team. I thought they were overwhelmed by the moment last night. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. As a matter of fact, let's dead all of the Sunday football talk, the championship Sunday talk. We'll save that for the next segment. What I want to do is I want to open the show, of course, the way we always do. And as a matter of fact, I'm being rude. Let's go ahead and do that the right way. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Open you up. Thinking a little bit. So, Adam Schefter tweeted out something today that I thought was pertinent. So I want to read it and then react to it. So, Adam Schefter tweeted this out, and I retweeted it, and I just tweeted a GIF and an emoji, but it's very interesting. It's thought-provoking, which is why I want to talk about it here. So Adam Schefter tweeted this out earlier today. There are roughly 10 quarterbacks locked into starting jobs for opening day of 2021 in the NFL. This is expected to be an unprecedented offseason of quarterback movement. My over-under of teams changing quarterbacks this offseason is 18. I'll go with the over. So he thinks of the 22 remaining teams, because he stated that 10 had quarterbacks locked in. No doubt about it, barring some kind of catastrophe that we won't put into the atmosphere, 10 teams have their quarterback locked in for the start of 2021. He didn't mention what 10 teams. If we wanted to let our imaginations run wild, I'm pretty sure we could come up with that list of 10 that he was referring to. That said, that leaves 22 other teams undecided at quarterback as to what's going to happen this offseason. A lot of unknown, as Adam just mentioned. And he set the number of teams changing quarterbacks at 18. He went over that number. That's staggering to think about. And then he lists some quarterbacks. And he's got a picture, and it says some quarterbacks whose futures are in question. And this list is about 15 names, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. It's 15 names. And I'll read them to you. At the top of the list is obviously the big fish this offseason, Deshawn Watson. After him is Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going anywhere. We'll talk about that here in a second. Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Cam Newton, Teddy Bridgewater, Mitchell Trubisky, Jameis Winston, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Alex Smith, Ben Roethlisberger. Those are your quarterbacks in question in terms of their futures in 2021. Now, just going through this list, and you know what? I'm going to do this exercise in futility. Probably should have did this before I came on, but I'm going to try to assume what 10 teams Adam has locked in with their guy in 2021. So he's saying that there's 22 teams that could do something different, potentially. Not likely, but potentially could. Let's go with the 10 that let's just try to get those teams out of the way. All right, so we're going to start with the Chiefs. We know they're not doing anything. They've got Mahomes. All right. We know the Bills have Josh Allen. So we'll take them off the list. That's 2 teams right there. We know the Seahawks have Russell Wilson. So that's 3. He's not going anywhere. Just signed a contract there. We know the Bengals have Joe Burrow. They're not doing anything crazy. They just drafted a quarterback. So that's 4. He didn't list Derek Carr. Could the Raiders do something? Sure they could. Are they? Probably not. Let's put the Raiders on this list. That's 5. All right. The Titans just re-signed Ryan Tannehill, so the assumption there is nothing's going to happen. That's 6. Let's see. I guess the assumption would be that Daniel Jones is the guy in New York. I don't really like making that assumption, but what's there to suggest that he's not? Let's make them the 7th team on this list. He's got Roethlisberger on his list, so that the Steelers aren't one of those teams. I don't think Roethlisberger is going anywhere, but we're going to put Tom Brady and the Bucs on this list. We're assuming, and this is a bad assumption to make, that Tom isn't going to retire if he wins the Super Bowl. I don't think he is. I think he's going to play this game as long as he can humanly possibly play it, but let's just go with the assumption that Tom's going to return. He signed a 2-year deal. He's got another year left on his deal. If they don't win it, he'll definitely be back, but if he wins it, he could decide to ride off into the sunset. He's not. So let's assume the Bucs are on this list. That's the 8th team on this list. He doesn't have Matt Ryan on his list. That might be a mistake. But for the intent of this discussion, let's put Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons on this list. That would give us 9 teams. And let's see. Going through the list of teams, and I'm doing that in my head right now. And Kyler Murray in Arizona with the Cardinals, definitely locked in as their starting quarterback there. That's 10 teams. Are those the 10 teams he had in mind? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we're 1 or 2 off. But let's just assume that those are the 10 teams, okay? And you know what? Chargers are locked in with their young quarterback, Justin Herbert. So maybe the Falcons aren't on this list. To me, I just want to make a list of all the teams that I think are locked in at quarterback. So that's 11. I think the Steelers are locked in with Roethlisberger. Personally, don't see him going anywhere. That's 12. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to give it another run in Green Bay. So I'm going to put the Packers on this list. That's 13. I'm thinking as we go through, let's go through each division one by one and see if we can come up with any other teams. We got 13 teams that are settled at the quarterback position. I believe are settled. I can't speak for you out there. These are the teams that I think are settled. Chiefs, Bills, Seahawks, Bengals, Raiders, Titans, Giants, Bucks, Falcons, Cardinals, Chargers, Steelers, Packers. That's 13 teams out of the 32 in the league. Let's go through each division and see if we can come up with any other teams that we feel like are stable at the quarterback position. We'll start with the NFC East. Dallas, no. Giants, we already got them on the list. Eagles, no. Washington, no. You go to the NFC North. Chicago, no. Minnesota, yeah, let's put them down on the list. They just re-signed Kirk Cousins to an extension. Don't see him going anywhere. Let's put the Vikings on this list. So Minnesota, Detroit, no, and Green Bay, already have them on the list. Next division is the NFC West. Rams, no. 49ers, no. Cardinals already on the list, and Seahawks already on the list. Then you go to the NFC South. Bucks already on the list, Saints no, Panthers no, Falcons already on the list, even though I do think they're going to draft a quarterback. Still on the list. So you go to the AFC side of the bracket. AFC East. Patriots, no. Jets, no. Bills, already have them on the list. And the Dolphins. Let's put the Dolphins on the list, even though I'm begrudgingly doing this. They're going to start Tua, I believe. So the Dolphins are on the list. They just drafted a young quarterback. You can't assume that just because there are some rumblings and grumblings out there that they're going to give up on Tua. There's no way. So the Dolphins are on the list. That's 15 teams now. We're up to. AFC West. Chiefs already on the list. Raiders already on the list. Chargers already on the list. Broncos, no. All right. So then you go to the AFC North. Steelers, I have already on the list. Bengals already on the list. Ravens, forgot about them. They're on this list. Lamar Jackson is firmly entrenched as their starter. And the Cleveland Browns, they also are on this list. That's probably one of the teams Adam, those are two teams Adam definitely had on his list that I forgot about. Ravens and Browns definitely have their quarterback of the future. And so now we're up to 17 teams. All right. And then we finish off with the AFC South. Colts, no. Titans, already on the list. Jaguars, they're not on the list, but they have their quarterback. But are they going to start someone else? We don't know, but they're going to draft a quarterback. And finally, the Houston Texans, no. So, of the 32 teams, I'm looking at 17, a list of 17 that I believe have their starting quarterback for next year. Now, beyond that, we can't say. But going into 2021, I think Adams' over-under on 18 is off. Now, if he's technically going by the guy that started last year, then yeah, he might be spot on with his over 18 teams changing quarterbacks, because in Miami, for instance, they started Ryan Fitzpatrick in week 1. He's not starting next year. So technically speaking, that would be a change at the quarterback position. All right. But, and you know, there are other teams on this list that could ultimately change, you know, but, you know, I'm going to assume that the Eagles are set. I mean, they're going through all this trouble. Everyone that they hire is with the intent on keeping Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Let's stop pretending like he's being traded. He's not. It's part of the reason Doug Peterson is no longer in Philadelphia. And that's why they hired Colts offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni. That's why they just hired another quarterbacks coach, a quarterback-centric guy from the Chargers to now come in and help with Carson Wentz. They're keeping Wentz. That's 18 teams now, as you add the Eagles onto this list. I think Dak is going to be back in Dallas, but we can't say that for certain, so I'm not going to put him down. But in my heart of hearts, I don't see any way he's not a Cowboy next year and beyond. But now we've got 18 teams on this list. So of the 18 teams, Chiefs, Bills, Seahawks, Bengals, Raiders, Titans, Giants, Bucks, Falcons, Cardinals, Chargers, Steelers, Packers, Vikings, Dolphins, Ravens, Browns, and Eagles. Of that list, you could probably put an asterisk next to the Giants. There's no guarantees there, although I think Daniel Jones is the guy heading into next season. You can put an asterisk next to the Bucks, even though I don't think Tom Brady's retiring. There is that opportunity, and there is the chance that he could say, you know what? I've conquered the mountain again. I did it in both conferences. I went out, taking out Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Mahomes all in one fell swoop. I'm done. I got nothing left to prove. He's not going to do that, but there is a chance. It may be 0.001, but it's not 100% that he's back. Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, again, much like Brady, there's the off chance that he could decide, you know what? My body's not feeling it. I'm done. He's got 1 year left. They owe him $41 million. He's not going anywhere. He's going to collect that check. Those checks, I should say. He'll be back. Rodgers, there's a lot of talk, and we'll get into that here in a second, about Aaron Rodgers and his future. I still think they're going to run it back one more time in Green Bay. You're going into year 2 of Jordan Love. There's no rush. Year 3 is when that clock really starts to tick. Year 2, not so much. He can sit one more year, and they'll be fine with that. Rodgers will be back in Green Bay one more time, I believe. And I think everybody else is pretty much set. I don't feel any type of way about anybody else. So if we were to reduce these teams and take them off the list that I just added, then that list is then reduced down to 14 teams, and that gets us right to Adam's number of 18 teams with an over-under reference. He goes over on that 18, but that's how you could get to 18 right there. Now, as for the quarterbacks, let's take a look at the quarterbacks that Adam mentioned in his tweet. Deshawn Watson, I think he's on the move. I think most of us feel that way now. I didn't before. I really firmly felt like he wasn't going to want out unless they forced his hand to want out. They've botched this thing 16 ways to Sunday, and he's now gotten to the point where he's not returning phone calls. And I thought maybe they could even still outside salvage this thing. There's this outside chance that they could still salvage this if they hired Eric Bieniemy. Well, we heard the report yesterday that it doesn't really matter who they hire at this point. He doesn't want back. He doesn't want to come back. He doesn't want back in. He wants out. So that bridge seems to be burnt at this point, and they're probably going to have to figure out a way to get him out of Houston and get the most back they can for him. Rodgers is on this list. I don't see him going anywhere. But there is the, possibility that management could decide, you know what, it's time to take a look at the young fella. I don't think that is in 2021. I think that is in 2022. Because you have that 5th-year option, this is why you trade up to select Jordan Love and make sure you get him in the first round so you can have that 5th-year option just in case you're not sure after 2 years of him being a starter. But I think year 3 and year 4 are going to be vital for Love, not year 2. I think Rodgers runs it back one last time in Green Bay. Matthew Stafford, we'll talk about his situation a little bit later on. I'll save that for later on in the show when we get to garbage time. But he's not going to be back in Detroit. I think we can all agree on that right now. Dak Prescott is on this list, and he should be, because he's got the Dallas Cowboys right now by the balls. We talked about this on this podcast numerous times. He controls the outcome of that situation. If he wants to stay in Dallas, he'll figure out a way to stay in Dallas, and they'll figure out a way to get him to stay in Dallas. If he doesn't want to stay in Dallas, he can play hardball, because they don't want to slap the franchise tag on him for a second consecutive time. It's way too pricey. They don't have the kind of money in a salary cap year where it could be potentially shrinking. They don't have the kind of means to slap the franchise tag on him and leave it there and have to pay this man upwards of $40 million in one season. They're just not in a financial position to do that. So he's got them by the balls, but I think he'll ultimately go back to the Cowboys because I think that's where he wants to be. And I think they want him to. Sam Darnold, interesting situation in New York with the Jets. I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't know how Robert Saleh feels about Sam Darnold. I don't know how their GM feels about Sam Darnold. Remember, he did not draft Sam Darnold. So again, he could be on his way out, and their GM could want to draft his own guy. That's an interesting situation. We've talked about it on this podcast. If I were a betting man, I'd bet that Sam Darnold is out in New York and that they trade him this offseason, get some draft capital for him, and they draft their guy of the future at number 2. But we'll see what happens. Carson Wentz, he's not going anywhere. I think all the moves the Eagles have made this offseason points to Carson Wentz being their guy of the future. They've invested in him. They spent money on him. They've started to draft receivers for him. I think that they are going to go all in on Wentz, even if it is to their detriment. They're going all in on Wentz, and so he's staying put in Philadelphia. Jared Goff, really interesting because reports have come out. he and Sean McVay aren't on the same page. We kind of saw a little bit of that. You know, McVay tried to downplay it that Goff was injured, but Goff said, I wanted to play against the Seahawks. I wanted to start that game. And I think McVay was excited to see what John Wolford could do. So I think there is a little bit of dissension there. I think McVay might feel like Goff is holding that offense back, and he may want to move on. I don't know if they're in a position contractually to do that, because they did sign Goff to a big deal a couple of years ago. So I don't know where they are in that situation, but that's interesting. So is the situation in San Francisco with Jimmy Garoppolo. We all know that Kyle Shanahan would love to upgrade that position. I don't think they feel comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo being the guy. They don't have a choice right now, but you know, they had a chance to win the Super Bowl last year, and Jimmy Garoppolo wet the bed in the biggest moment of that football game. Wide open, E-man saying down the field, either that's a touchdown if it's on the money, or he's caught at around the 5-yard line and the 49ers have a legitimate shot at winning the football game. He overthrows him. They never get that shot again. They end up losing that football game. So I think he's with all the injuries and the inconsistent play from Jimmy, I think Kyle Shanahan is ready to move on. Can he move on? Similar to the Jared Goff situation in Los Angeles. They just re-signed Garoppolo to a big deal a few years ago. Can they get out of that thing? I don't know if they're in a position to or not. Cam Newton, I don't even know why he's on this list, to be honest with you. I guess because he started week 1 for the Patriots and was the guy in New England, but he's done. You can't convince me otherwise. Cam Newton's best football, long gone, and I can't see him starting in 2021 for anyone week 1. Now, if he ends up on an NFL roster in a backup capacity, sure, he could find the field at some point in 2021 as a starter. But coming into the season as the guy, I don't see any way in hell that transpires with Cam Newton. He's done to me. Teddy Bridgewater signed a 3-year deal last offseason with Carolina, but they've already pretty much said, you know, to anybody that's listening, hey, Teddy was a stopgap from the moment we signed him. We are looking to establish a culture. Teddy was going to help us do that, and he did. They played hard this year, and they almost won some games. But Teddy's not good enough. And I think that's what we kind of gathered from this. Like, this was Teddy's opportunity to prove that he could do it. And Teddy's just a marginal an average starter at best. We've went through this. He's Black Alex Smith. He can win you some games. You play good defense. You put some good targets around him. He's Alex Smith, okay? He can win you 10, 11 games. You can go to the playoffs with Teddy, but he's not going to win you any games. He's not. We talked so much about the 4 quarterbacks that were left in Championship Sunday. Teddy's not one of those guys that belongs in that discussion. So, I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to remain in Carolina. I don't really think he's going in. As a matter of fact, let's put the Panthers down on this list. They're going to draft a quarterback, but they're not getting rid of Teddy Bridgewater. They're not trading him. They're not doing anything foolish. He's a Carolina Panther, so we can put the Panthers down on this list. Teddy Bridgewater will be their starter week 1. They will draft a quarterback. I feel confident in saying that. In the top 10, I think the Panthers sit there with the 7th pick in the draft? They were 7th last year. No way they're 7th again. They're 8th this year. They're going to draft a quarterback. You know, even if they got to move up to get the guy that they want, they're going to get a quarterback in the top 10. More likely than not. Again, you know how this draft goes. Teams come up, and if someone goes in front of them and takes the last of the 4 quarterbacks, then they could be on the outside looking in. I don't think they're going to reach for a quarterback at 8 if 4 quarterbacks are already gone by the time 8 rolls around. But if one of those 4 quarterbacks that we've talked about, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, or Trey Lance are available at 8, they're going to take whomever's left. I firmly believe that. I could be wrong. We will see. But the Panthers are starting Teddy Bridgewater, so I'm going to add the Panthers to that list. Mitchell Trubisky, he's gone out of Chicago. I actually thought he finished up the season pretty strong. I thought the playoff game was really lackluster and left a bad taste in anybody's mouth that was vouching for him to stay in Chicago. Scoring 7 points again. And that Saints defense isn't too shabby. I get it. But And Javon Wims dropped an easy touchdown pass that would have changed that whole game. Again, I've acknowledged all of those things. I don't think he's going to be back in Chicago, personally. That doesn't mean he doesn't deserve a chance to go elsewhere and show that he can play. I just don't know if he's going to get that opportunity or not. So, interesting on Mitchell Trubisky. I look at him as a Marcus Mariota type, though. He'll go somewhere, he'll back up, and if somebody gets injured, he may get in there and he might wow someone. But I don't think he'll be given the keys to anybody's vehicle after he just wrecked the Chicago Bears vehicle, even though I still think Mitchell can play in this league, just like I think Marcus Mariota can play in this league. To what extent? How good can he be? Maybe there is a ceiling there that he can't break, but nonetheless, I do think we haven't heard the last of Mitchell Trubisky as a starter in this league. Jameis Winston is very interesting. He's a wild card this offseason, one that no one's really talking about, but he only signed a one-year deal in New Orleans. I look at Jameis Winston and I say to myself, he was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. Guy's super talented. Yes, we know that he comes with turnovers. Can he shake that? Can he get better at that? Generally, at this point in your career, you are what you are. That said, if he could just turn the turnovers down a little, I'm not asking for him to shut them off completely. He'll never be that guy, okay? But can you just turn them down just a bit? Like, the turnovers are on 10 with Jameis. Can we just turn that thing down to like 5 or 4? Like, yeah, it's still a little noisy, but if you could just turn them down to like 5, we can roll with that. I mean, if you're throwing 35 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, I think most teams would live with that from Jameis Winston. 14's a little high in this day and age in the NFL, but if you're throwing 35, 40 touchdowns, they can live with that, okay? What we can't do is the 30 for 30. I mean, we can't have a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. But he's interesting, man. The guy's talented. I think he's really interesting this offseason. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's another interesting guy. Not because of him being a starter, but because he's the quintessential bridge quarterback in this league. If you've got a young guy that you're drafting and you're not ready to start him, who better than Ryan Fitzpatrick to start the first 6 or 7 games of the season, just like he did this year for the Miami Dolphins, going 3-3 in that first 6-game stretch. Like, who's better? Who's done it more times? Who's more advanced at grooming a young quarterback, showing him the ropes, understanding what his role is than Ryan Fitzpatrick? I don't know if you could pick a better guy to play in front of your young quarterback than Ryan Fitzpatrick. So he'll be interesting. He might play till he's 60. Anyway, Alex Smith, I honestly wish he would just retire. He's not going to. Anybody that watched that 60 Minutes piece on him a week ago, he's not retiring. God, I wish he would just retire. He's not going away. And I don't think that Washington's going to shoo him away, which I wish they would do. He's going to probably be back in Washington more likely than not, which pisses me off to a degree, but it is what it is. And then Ben Roethlisberger's on this list. I don't see any way Roethlisberger leaves $41 million on the table. And the Steelers, I think it's like a $22, $23 million dead cap hit regardless. Like, there's nothing they can do short of restructuring the deal, which I don't think Ben is going to do. There's nothing that they can do here. So Roethlisberger is going to play. I think this is it for him. This is his last year in the league. And I see him coming back for one final ride in Pittsburgh. So, excuse me. I think Adam's number of teams changing QBs this offseason at 18 and him going with the over is a little aggressive, as I've given you a list here of 19 teams that I think will have the same starting quarterback that they had opening the season in 2020. Let's go through this list quickly. Chiefs, yep. Bills, yep. Seahawks, yep. Will Joe Burrow be able to start week 1? Don't know, but I'm going to assume he will. I'm going to give them a check. Derek Carr will be the starter of the Raiders. Ryan Tannehill will be the starter of the Titans. I think Daniel Jones will be the starter of the Giants come week 1. I'm going to give them a check mark. I think Tom Brady's going to be the starter of the Bucs. Don't think he's going to retire abruptly, whether he wins or loses. Falcons. Matt Ryan's going to be the starter come week 1. Kyler Murray will be the starter of the Cardinals week 1. Justin Herbert was not the starter of the Chargers last year, week 1. That was Tyrod Taylor. So for all intents and purposes, we will take them off of the list, even though I feel like they've got their starter already. That would be a change from last year. Steelers started Ben Roethlisberger week 1. He's going to start again. Rodgers in Green Bay going to start one more time. We got Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. I believe he's going to start. The Dolphins started Ryan Fitzpatrick. That is not going to happen this year, so I'll take them off of this list. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore going to be your week 1 starter. Baker Mayfield going to be your week 1 starter in Cleveland. Carson Wentz was your week 1 starter in Philadelphia, and I think he will do that again. And Teddy Bridgewater was your week 1 starter for the Carolina Panthers, and I believe he will be their week 1 starter again, although I'll take them off the list just because we can't be certain of who they're going to get and how they're going to feel about that guy. I mean, they could end up getting Justin Fields, as we already talked about in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft on Friday. He had the Panthers landing Justin Fields at 8. He may come in, knock their socks off, wow them. They may feel like he's a better option than Teddy Bridgewater week 1. Hey, why not start him now? No time like the present. Let's get this process started. And they may go with him week 1. So I'll take the Panthers off the list, even though I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the guy. That's not a definite, a guarantee. I just want the guarantees. And so on this list, you've got 16 teams that I feel like have locked in starters. So I think Adam's number of 18, that over-under number, is a little aggressive. I would go under that 18. I'll go with 16 teams could possibly have a change at the quarterback position in 2021. But I find it interesting. As he mentioned, and I thought he eloquently said this, it's going to be an unprecedented offseason for the quarterback position. I mean, how often is it that we're talking about quarterbacks changing teams that are still in the prime of their career, and we look at the rest of the roster and say that roster is ready to go right now? I mean, we look at that Rams roster and we say, hey, you put the right quarterback in there, they're ready to go right now. You look at the 49ers roster with that coaching staff and you say, now, again, they got some big shoes to fill with the loss of Robert Saleh. How good would the defense be? We'll see. But with Kyle Shanahan coaching that offense, I'm confident that you put the right quarterback in there. I mean, let's just go with the premise like this. They get Matthew Stafford in San Francisco, and it's not going to happen. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's just go with that for this exercise that we're going through right now. It changes everything with the 49ers. They're ready to go right now, get all those guys back from injury, and they're a scary team again. So it's a weird offseason. The Saints have a decision to make. They're going to be looking for one of these veterans because they're not looking to hit the reset button at quarterback. So, they could very well say, all right, Jameis, we're going to give you an opportunity. You were in the offense last year. Here's your chance. And they could pit him and Taysom Hill against one another for the right to start. Who knows what they'll do in New Orleans. But so many teams that are on the cusp of doing something big have decisions at the quarterback position. We haven't seen this many teams that aren't really looking necessarily for the young guy to come in, but really want the veteran to pick up where the last veteran left off. You're talking about New Orleans. If you're New England, you'd like to forget about 2020 and have a new veteran come in and pick up where Brady left off in 2019. All right. If you're Washington, you'd love to get a veteran in here to pick up where Alex Smith left off back in like week 14 or 13, really. I think was his last good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you'd like to see him, a veteran come in and give you a chance right away. I'd actually like to see them go the young route. And I think most fan bases would like to see their teams go the young route. But with going the young route comes growing pains. And everybody likes the idea of growing pains and getting a young quarterback until they get the young quarterback and have to go through the growing pains. The lip service is easy. It's easy to talk about, man, I want this young guy. I don't care what it takes. Get the young guy and we build. And then you get in the season and you start taking lumps and then everybody wants to bitch and complain. Because at the end of the day, you really want to win. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what these teams decide to do. at the quarterback position. The first domino is Deshawn Watson, and I think everything else kind of falls after that one takes place. But it wouldn't shock me if Matthew Stafford goes first. There's some really big dominoes out there. What about Sam Darnold? He's a guy that I think could shape and mold what happens this offseason as well. So a lot of intrigue, man. We haven't had this kind of intrigue at the quarterback position ever in free agency. And I remember talking about quarterback free agency last year and how, wow, you got Brady out there. You got Winston out there. You got Teddy Bridgewater out there. Like, we don't usually have these types of situations, and there was a chance that Breeze could have been available, but he ultimately went back to New Orleans and signed a deal. But he was for a brief spell there on the free agent market. Dak Prescott was going to be a free agent, but Dallas slapped the franchise tag on him last year. So there were so many guys available last year, and I was like, man, this is crazy. We don't see this kind of action at the quarterback position. Well, we're going to topple all over that this year with the amount of movement and names that will be mentioned and teams that will be willing to give up draft capital and players potentially as compensation to get one of these veterans that they think can help them win right now. It's a really fascinating time, and the season's not over yet. So that's something to keep an eye on, and we'll do that here on the Louie T Network. So with that said, let's go to our next segment, and it, of course, is our playoff picture, more specifically Championship Sunday, and how we got to Brady versus Mahomes. I led the show off talking about how I didn't get what I want, and I never get what I want. And so I can't speak for you guys out there. Anyone, I won't do that. I hate when I do that because I never get what I want. I wanted the Vikings versus the Broncos back in 98. I wanted that. You probably didn't. You probably didn't give a shit in 1998. I did. I wanted that very badly. And I'm never going to stop talking about it. So don't worry about it. Say, Louie, let it go. No, I'm never going to let that go. I'll take that grudge to my grave. I will never forgive Gary Anderson as long as I live. That said, I wanted LeBron versus Kobe. I never got it. Never got it. I wanted Rodgers versus Brady in the Super Bowl. I had to take yesterday as consolation. And I told you that felt like Pacquiao versus Mayweather. Like I got it 5 years too late. I'll take it anyway. But I got it too late, okay? But I wanted Rodgers Brady in the Super Bowl. Never got that. I said I wanted Favre versus Brady in the Super Bowl first. I never got that. I said, you know what? I'll set. And I almost got it when he was in Minnesota. Almost got it when he was in Minnesota. But I said, okay, don't worry about it. I'll settle for Rodgers and Brady. Never got it in the Super Bowl. I said, okay, fine. All right, what's the next big one? I need something else big. Give me something juicy, man. And this was it. Rodgers, Mahomes. We were supposed to get it on a Sunday night last year. Didn't get it. I wanted it. We didn't get it. I wanted it. Let me stop saying we. I wanted it. I wanted it for Rodgers. I wanted it for his legacy. But I also wanted to see it because, to me, it's the best quarterback I've ever seen in my lifetime versus the guy that's going to overtake him at some point during my lifetime. Brady's the GOAT. He's the winningest quarterback ever. And he will go down as the GOAT. And for every reason that every single one of you out there will name. And there's no disputing that. But he's not the best quarterback I've ever seen from a talent perspective. Brady was never an athlete. Brady was never great at throwing on the run. Brady was a pocket passer. He's the best pocket passer I've ever seen. And that includes Peyton Manning, who I was a massive fan of. Brady's the best pocket passer I've ever seen. But Brady can't do the things that Mahomes and Rodgers does. So when you're talking from a pure talent standpoint, Brady pales in comparison to Rodgers and Mahomes, who are the two greatest quarterbacks these eyes have ever seen from a pure talent standpoint. I may never get to see that now, and that's fine. I was able to deal with the realization of that last night. So how do we get to Brady versus Mahomes? Well, let's start in the NFC where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were the victors. Celebrate! Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, if you're out there, celebrate, goddammit. You're going to the Super Bowl. At home, no less. Or as the Bucks and the papers in Tampa and everybody else is saying, coming home. They're coming home to Tampa, to Raymond James Stadium, to play in Super Bowl 55 after getting a 31-26 victory over the Green Bay Packers. And I thought there were so many big points in this football game. I mean, this was a great football game. So many things to talk about after this game. I talked about most of this yesterday, but I'll be brief. I don't want to bore you with, some of the things that I've already mentioned. I'll just say this. I thought the Packers, my overarching theme here is that the Packers showed too much respect for Tom Brady. Way too much. You're supposed to respect every opponent. I don't care how minor they seem to be, how minuscule of a threat they may appear to be. You never underestimate any opponent, and you respect all opponents. But that's where you draw the line. You don't go past that line, because then you risk running into the territory of one of two things, and both are very and equally dangerous. If you go too far in one direction, you find yourself in fear. If you go too far in the opposite direction, you find yourself in awe. Both are equally dangerous because you're not focused at the task at hand. I felt like they went too far in the direction of fear. They had some bitch-assness yesterday. There were some moments where the Packers conducted themselves like some baby back bitches. And I'm not used to seeing teams with Aaron Rodgers on the field conduct themselves in that manner. Normally, it's the team playing against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers who conduct themselves in that manner. I'll give you a great example. You got 2 minutes left in the first half. And I get it. Second down and long. You don't know if you're going to convert this third down or not. So you want to be careful. I get it. It's 14-10. You don't want to allow Brady and company, who's had some real good success this first half, to get it back with great field position. You're deep in your own territory. I totally understand. So on that second down play, after you complete a short pass, inbounds, or you run it, I think they actually might have run it, whatever the case may be. Clock's moving and it's running. It's down to about 1:25, and you snap the football. And Rodgers completes a pass to Davante Adams for a first down. And it's a nice little chunk play, too. It's not a little bitch-ass 8-yard gain on 3rd and 7. No, it's like an 18, 19-yard gain. Like, you're getting close now to about midfield. You're at like the 42-yard line or so. Now we're cooking with some gasoline now. Now, this is the point of this drive where you got 2 timeouts. You ice one of those bad boys with a minute left. And you say, all right, let's go get some damn points. You weren't scared last week when you had 29 seconds against the Rams. You weren't scared last week. You threw caution to the wind. Why? Because you weren't afraid of them. You respected them. You weren't in awe of their defense. You weren't afraid of Aaron Donald or anybody. You were fine. You said, let's go and be us. Let's go do us. Let's go get some damn points. And Rodgers almost threw a pick twice on that possession. But you ultimately got a field goal out of that thing. And in this game, with a minute left after that completion of Davante Adams, you sat there and you let 35 seconds melt off the clock. And I'm just staring at the 2 timeouts like, are we really doing this right now? Are we afraid? Are we really acting as if you don't have Aaron Rodgers? Are we really acting like you can't get points here? Are you that afraid of Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is that what I'm seeing? Am I smelling fear from the Packers led by Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, that's what I smelled. I smelled fear. That was the first sign where I realized, oh my God, you guys are scared. Maybe they're not going to win this game. You're at home, you're the number 1 seed, and you are terrified. You got to play your game, man. You know why Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson in Tokyo in 1990? You know why Mike Tyson, up until that moment, was undefeated? And no one had even come close to beating him? Because the minute Mike stepped through the curtains and made his way to the ring, he had already won the fight. Because the guy standing in the ring was either one of two things. He was either scared for his life or he was in awe of Iron Mike. Oh my God, in the flesh. It's really him. Either you were thinking, that guy was thinking in the ring, I'm either about to get my block knocked off. Oh my God, this is the guy I watched knock everybody's block knocked off. And I'm probably going to get mine knocked off too. Either way, you were done for. But you know what Buster Douglas did? He stepped into that ring and he wasn't afraid. He wasn't scared. His mom had just passed away. He had nothing to lose. He's like, you know what? F this, man. I'm going here and I'm going to win this damn fight. And you know what the perfect storm was? Is that Mike didn't respect Buster Douglas. He didn't respect his opponent. He went to Tokyo and he was doing everything but focused at the task at hand. He wasn't worried about training. He was worried about all these photo shoots and what fight he was going to have next. He was worried about Evander Holyfield and everything else except Buster Douglas. And so the perfect confluence of everything came together on that fateful night in 1990 when Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson was never the same after that. He lost his immortality. He lost the mystique, the aura, all of it gone, one fell swoop. And at that moment, I looked at the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, because you know how big of an Aaron Rodgers fan I am. I looked at Aaron Rodgers, and this is not all his fault, but he's partly to blame here. And I lost. I felt like a lot of that mystique, that aura, that invincibility that I've held up here in this high regard for Rodgers, that shit started to come down at that moment. What are we doing right now? We just bitched up. Go get points. And it backfired. Even though they thought they were doing the right thing, it still backfired. They let all that time run down. He throws the pick with 25 seconds left. They still give up a touchdown with 8 seconds left. That was for a lack of aggression. You go be aggressive. You go be you. How many times we watched the Packers with 30 seconds, let alone 2 minutes, go down the field and get some points? Hell, we watched them do it a week ago against the Rams. Same situation. Way more time this time around. They bitched up because it was Brady. They were fearful. And they got. And at the end of the game, I thought that once again, you could argue in the opposite direction. They thought they could get a stop. And so that would lead you to believe that they weren't fearful of Brady. But they should have been in that situation. What possessed you to think that your defense was going to get a 3-and-out stop and get you the ball back? I just don't know why they would feel that way. But I thought Tom Brady's opening drive of the game, to march them down the field, 3 of 3 on third downs, including the touchdown pass on the third and final third down of that drive to Mike Evans. I thought that drive was a thing of beauty, and what it did was it calmed. First of all, Tom was probably the only guy in that huddle not nervous. Because that was, what championship game was that for Tom? What was that, 12, 13? I don't know. I lose count. Yeah, you know, after you've been to more than 5 or 6, I stop counting, okay? This will be his, 10th Super Bowl? 11th? I always lose count with Brady. Hell, I can't even keep up with how many Super Bowls the guy has. No, he's got 6 now, because I made that mistake, a podcast or so ago. How many of these things has he lost? 3, right? This will be his 10th Super Bowl, right? I think he's lost 3. I'm not going down that road again. Whether it's 10, 11, I don't give a shit. He's been in a bunch of of championship games. This is his first in the NFC, but he's been in many of these. None of those guys in that Buccaneer huddle had been. So he needed to be the guy that was the calming influence. And that drive to start the game calmed them down. We can do this. You go to Lambeau, you fall down 10-0 like you did in the regular season game, and it would have been a different feel, but instead they were the ones that jumped on top of the Packers early. They made the statement early in that game up, what was it? Yeah, it was 10-0. I think it was 10-0. No, it was 7. It was 7. I don't think they ever got a 14-0 lead. They never got that big early on in the game. But regardless of what, Brady threw 3 interceptions. Should have thrown 4. And the people that don't like Brady are going to point to that and say Brady was awful, this, that, and the third. Brady was outstanding. He had some drops in this game. Mike Evans had a big drop down the sideline. Chris Godwin with another drop in this game. There were also some outstanding catches made. At the end of the day, Brady made plays. I hated the pass interference call. It was the right call, but the thing I hated about it, and I've already mentioned this, you don't make that call because you haven't been making it all game long. You can't now decide to make the call. That was the thing that really pissed me off. But the better team won. I think that's the overarching theme here, is that the team that deserved to win the game ultimately won the game. And that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, they were the more aggressive team. They were the more physical team, I feel like. They were out there hitting, okay? They forced 2 fumbles of Aaron Jones. He lost one of them, knocked him out of the game. They were physical. They were very, very physical with Green Bay. Davante Adams was out of sight, out of mind. He was essentially a non-factor in this game. That's what you have to do if you're going to beat the Green Bay Packers. Just think about it this way. If Davante Adams has 1 touchdown catch in this game, the Buccaneers lose. They lose. Even if he only had 7 catches for 41 yards, but that was a touchdown was attached to that, they lose this game. But instead, Davante Adams was a ghost in this game. Barely made a dent. It was more MVS, it was more Alan Lazard than it was. And I've said this a million times. If you're going to get beat by the Packers, make MVS beat you. Make Alan Lazard beat you. Make Robert Tonyan beat you. Don't let it be Davante Adams. They took Adams away, and they weren't able to do it in the red zone. And that's where this game was won. Remember one of my biggest keys to the game. Tampa, 4 of 11, coming into the championship game. In the red zone, in the playoffs this season. They were outstanding in the red zone. The Packers were the one that struggled. They kept throwing that stat. 80% in the regular season of the Green Bay Packers. Every 4 out of 5 trips, they come away with touchdowns. Well, it didn't happen last week against the Rams, and it didn't happen this week against Tampa Bay. And ultimately, that's what cost them. They settled for way too many field goals. Bucs get the win. Big stops in the red zone, including that last and final one. Still don't know what the hell Matt LaFleur was thinking. I get it, you know, if you can get the stop, but you really thought you were going to get the stop? Again, what possessed you to think that? Anyway, Bucs win 31-26. Big win for Tampa, and now they're 1 game away, 4 quarters away from doing something that I know a lot of Bucs fans probably thought they might not see in their lifetime. And in the nightcap, Chiefs-Bills, not much really to see here, 38-24. The Chiefs did what I thought they were going to do. Mahomes was magnificent. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce were unstoppable, okay? I mean, similar to, and that's the difference between the Packers and the Chiefs offensively. I've heard so many people during the course of the season say, how do you stop the Packers? How do you stop the Chiefs? These guys are impossible to stop. If you get a punt against these teams, you almost feel like, you know, you've done something incredible. And I'm like, yeah, if it's Kansas City, yeah. If it's the Packers, not exactly. you can slow them down because you just got to take away Davante Adams. You can slow them down. With the Chiefs, just pick your poison. And this is where the Packers let Aaron Rodgers and their fan base down last year. They had an opportunity to go out and get some real help for Aaron Rodgers and, more importantly, for Davante Adams. And they didn't do it. And then they had another chance to do it during the trade deadline, and they didn't do it. They could have even gotten Kenny Stills, who would have been a massive upgrade over anybody else on their football team that they have complimenting Davante Adams, and they didn't do it. And so for me, you made it too easy on the opposition to be able to come up with a game plan that would help you take down the Green Bay Packers. Whereas with the Chiefs, it's Mahomes at quarterback, which is a problem onto itself. But then it's Kelsey, then it's Hill. Again, they didn't even have Samuel Watkins. Okay, he'll be back for the Super Bowl more likely than not. Then it's Mecole Hardman. And then you sprinkle in all the other ancillary guys that could hurt you, like a Demarcus Robinson, like Pringle. I mean, the list goes on and on. Not to mention the running backs out of the backfield are also very pivotal in their ability to hurt you offensively. So the Chiefs are otherworldly, and they proved it again in this game. 38-24. The Bills, you could tell they were overwhelmed by the moment. The coaching staff, I thought, was overwhelmed. I thought Brian Daboll might have called his worst game of the season, especially down in the red zone. I thought Sean McDermott was overwhelmed on several occasions, including electing to kick a field goal from the 2-yard line, 4th and goal from the 2, right before half. Again, you're playing against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, this is not the time to go Miyagi-Do, as I mentioned last night. You got to go full Cobra Kai. Strike first, strike hard, and no mercy. All right? And if you die trying with that aggressive nature and mindset. You can't be over here being defensive and kicking field goals. You can get your brains bashed in against the Chiefs, and that's ultimately what happened. I mean, I think he temporary insanity at that point. I think he lost his mind for a second. Like, he thought he was playing in the AFC East or something like that. We're playing the Jets. We'll field goal them to death and win this thing. Nah, not exactly. You're not winning this one 18-10 like you did against the Jets. Gonna need some more firepower if you're gonna beat the Chiefs. So I thought he lost his mind for a second there. And then at the end of the game, you're down, 17, and he elects to go for 2. Why are we doing this again? Because extra point here would make it 16, and it would keep your ball club in the game. It'd reduce this to a 2-score game, and it'd give you a chance. And he thought otherwise, you don't get the 2-point conversion, and that was pretty much all she wrote. So again, poor coaching from multiple levels, and also Josh Allen, first time there. He should have thrown 3 picks in this game. He threw 1. It was the first time there. Like, you had to expect some mistakes, some turnovers, some nervousness. And he took some bad sacks too. But again, all of these things come with the Josh Allen package. He just hadn't been there before. So I thought the moment swallowed up that entire team. They'll be better the next time around. If there's a next time around, they'll be better. But they just weren't ready for the Chiefs. Chiefs been there, done that. 3rd straight AFC Championship game at home. They were more than comfortable in this game. There were no nerves for them. And I say that tongue-in-cheek. They were nervous. You get nervous before these types of games, but that quickly subsided for them. They realized very quickly, this is what we do. And I thought Mahomes said it best after the game, because he acknowledges we got a hell of a challenge coming up against Brady. I know this guy all too well. I've already faced him 4 times. Hell, we faced him in Tampa this year, and it was a hell of a football game. But he's like, I'll take my guys against anybody else. I'll take my crew, against anybody else's crew. And he's right. If they're healthy, if they're playing ball at the level that we know they're capable of, I'll take the Chiefs every time over anybody else in the league until somebody else appears on the radar that shows me that you're at their level defensively or offensively. You got to pick one. Either you can outscore these boys, and find it hard to believe that anybody will be able to assemble a group capable of outscoring these boys, or you'll have to slow them down, which is the tactic that the Chargers are looking to take. Like, hey, we know we can't score with them, but we can reduce them down to our level. That's why they went out and got all that defensive talent. That's why they got all that speed on defense, because they're looking to reduce them to a 20-something to 20-something game. You can win that against the Chiefs, which is what the 49ers did last year. They tried to reduce it to a 20-something to 20-something game. And with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they had them right where they wanted them. And even with 2 minutes left, they still had them at 24 to 20. And if Jimmy Garoppolo hits E-Man Sand, they probably win that football game. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. No telling how much time would have been left for Mahomes and company. But either way, you got to reduce them to the 20s. If that thing gets up into the 30s, you got no chance. That's what you got. You're up against some machine too strong. Those boys, you want none of what those boys are doing up in the 30s and 40s. None of it. They can do it all day. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun game. But that's how we got there. Mahomes and company dominated, and Brady and his group outlasted the Packers. They got up big 28-10. Big play before halftime. Touchdown to Scotty Miller. Scotty. Old Scotty. That's a big ass play, because that put the Packers in panic mode. Then you come out and you fumble on the first possession of the second half, and they turn that into another touchdown. I'm going to say this one more time and then we'll move on. I thought it was a clinic on how to keep a defense off balance by offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. I thought it was his best work of the season. Okay? And that's what you want to do. In your biggest game of the season, you want your guys doing their best work of the season. And some of those hard play action fakes, like they had one to Godwin and he's wide open. It's hard to defend that because it looks so much like run. It looked so much like run. It was gorgeous. And Godwin sells the hell out of it, like he's blocking down, and then he kind of disappears into the abyss and then reappears out of the other side and nobody's there. How about the touchdown to Cameron Brate after the second fumble by Aaron Jones right after halftime? Hard play action fake. Brady ducks down. Everybody thinks it's a run. Fournette already got you for a 22-yard touchdown run. So everybody thinks it's a run. Brady emerges. Cameron Brate, not a defender within 5 yards of him. Couldn't have been any more wide open. Some excellent play calls. How about the tight end screen to Gronk? Haven't called his name all game long. You need a big first down here. And they pop a tight end screen on your ass to Gronk. I thought he was masterful in the game. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to garbage time. I don't know if it's still out there or not, but I do know that there was a super chat once upon a time. Here it is. So I want to take this right now. It is from my man Silver V. Silver Villains. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Silver V writes, what are your thoughts about the Chiefs going back to McCole Hardman instead of putting him in the doghouse? It's one of the reasons I am proud of my team. It's a lot easier to put a guy like McCole Hardman in the doghouse if he were just an average guy. But he's not. He's McCole Hardman. He's Tyreek Hill light. He's great value Tyreek Hill, which is why you drafted him, because you weren't sure if Tyreek was going to be able to keep his nose clean off the field. And just in case Tyreek wanted to trip, you had another guy that would offer you that kind of speed. But you know what's better than one? Two speedsters. And so, yeah, they could have stuck Tyreek Hill back there on punts after he muffed that kick. But why? He's too important a part of your offense. Not just on special teams, but offense. They not only did they stick him back there on punts again, but they made a concerted effort to get him involved in the game. They threw him the screen for the touchdown, and then they gave him the end around for the 50-yard run. So they made sure and I think the first play after the fumble, after the Bills scored, was a slant to Mecole Hardman, I believe. Like, they made sure they got him involved in the game very quickly so that they didn't lose him. And that's exactly what you do there. That's what good coaches do. He's too talented. If he were some Joe Schmo, if he was some schmuck, some average run-of-the-mill wide receiver that you could just replace, his ass would have been in the doghouse. I don't have to put up with this shit. I'll put somebody else back there. I'll give you an example. If it was DeMarcus Robinson that had done that, you just snatch his ass off of punts. Go sit down. I don't need you back there. But it's not. It's Mecole Hardman. He's a difference maker. So I wouldn't expect anything less from Big Red, Andy Reid. I wouldn't expect anything less for him to then go over and say, hey, we got you. Don't worry about it. We're going to pick you up. And to get him back in the game. That's what good coaches do. Got to have a pulse of your team. Got to know what guys you can trust to overcome that kind of adversity too. You know, he was beating himself up pretty good. He threw the coat over his head. But you know what his teammates did? They walked over. Hey, don't worry about it. They snatched the coat off his head. Hey, you good, man. We got you. Don't worry about it. That's what championship teams do. That's what character does in your locker room. No finger pointing. Don't worry, we got you, bruh. We got you. Gotta love it. Anyway, let's get to garbage time. And I want to talk about the Matthew Stafford situation. So over the weekend, I did a video on this already, so this isn't new news. But over the weekend, Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions officially agreed to part ways. And they're going to trade Matthew Stafford this offseason. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and where. And I came out and I did a video, and I want to address a few things first with this statement that I'm making. First things first. With Matthew Stafford, I said he's a top 7 quarterback in this league. I made a list. My list of quarterbacks in front of him: Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Allen, Watson. That's it. You got a guy or two that you want to stick in front of him? Knock yourself out. He's not outside of the top 10. And there were people that came at me, oh, you're crazy. And they started naming randos. I got Mayfield. I got Justin Herbert. I got Kyler Murray. What are you talking about? None of those guys are in front of Matthew Stafford at this point of his or their careers. Now, 3 years from now, those guys may be ahead of Matthew Stafford, but right now, if you want to add Lamar Jackson in, I'll listen. I don't agree, but I'll listen to that. He's an MVP. He's a difference maker. But if we're talking about playing the quarterback position, dissecting defenses, knowing what the defense is trying to do to you, knowing where to go with the football against this look and this pressure, he's top 7 in this league. You don't put anybody else in front of him. I also read a bunch of false narratives. Oh, he's injury prone. I don't know if I can give up. Let me stop that right there. Let me stop it dead in its tracks. The last 9 out of 10 seasons Matthew Stafford has played in 16 games. 9 out of 10, including this one, where he was all kinds of banged up, had no business playing in weeks 16 or 17, especially week 17 with nothing left to play for. Had hurt his ankle the week before against Tampa Bay, had nothing to play for. Man's got ribs, man's got a neck, man's got a hand, and he's got an ankle, and he played. And oh, by the way, they won. 16 games in 2020. And 8 times out of the 9 in the years previous to that. So this whole narrative about he's always injured, stop. It's false. It's low-hanging fruit. Do your homework before you feed into that false narrative, okay? The man's a soldier. So stop that. He plays. If he can walk, he's playing. Next thing is he's 32. He'll be 33 in 2 weeks. We've already talked about this. How much do you want to invest in a 33-year-old quarterback? I've stated this on this program multiple times. With the new rules and the way the league is set up, you can play until you're 40, 42, 44. We're seeing it already. Now, Stafford's going to have to trend in a different direction from an injury standpoint in terms of taking hits, and the next team that gets him needs to protect him better. It's essentially all I need to say. Okay, because he's gonna play through some things. He's gonna be a warrior. But how about he not have to do that? How about he doesn't take 13 hits and get sacked 4 times and get battered and bruised? How about you protect him? I hope wherever he goes, he's protected. So he doesn't have to go through a neck and a finger and an ankle and ribs. So he doesn't have to go through those things. There was this report that came out today that he would have stayed in Detroit had they kept Darren Bevel, who ended up being, it's Bevel. I can't remember his first name. It's not Devin. It's something Bevel. I think it starts with the D. I'm gonna look it up. But it was his offensive coordinator who ended up being the interim head coach. And it looked like all the Lions players really enjoyed playing for Bevel. Let's see. Lions, Darrell Bevel. So it seemed like everyone enjoyed, including Matthew Stafford, enjoyed playing for Darrell Bevel when he took over as their interim head coach, and he wanted him back in Detroit, reportedly. And he's off to Jacksonville to coach under Urban Meyer, and that was the last straw for Matthew Stafford. So despite all of the assumptions, and a lot of people made them, oh, he doesn't want to be a part of another rebuild in Detroit. He's sick of it. He's tired of losing. He's tired of new GM and new coach. He wants out. Nah, not exactly. If they would have kept a little normalcy around him, just a little bit. Remember the last time they changed coaches, he was like, look, man, just let me keep Joe Bob Cooter. You know, let me keep the serial killer as my OC and we good. They kept him for that first year just to appease him, and then I think they ended up getting rid of him the next year. He just wanted a familiar face. At some point, you get tired of looking around the locker room and seeing a bunch of funny looking. Don't know him. Never seen him before. Don't know him. Hey, what's his name? At some point, you just want some familiar faces around. And not have to start from scratch offensively with a brand new scheme, with new terminology. If I'm going to do that, I might as well go to a different team. If you're going to make me start over from scratch offensively with a brand new scheme, with different terminology, I might as well go somewhere else. You know what? That makes a ton of sense. And I'm going to tell you right now, Deshawn Watson is the crown jewel of the offseason. There's no mistaking that. But you know who the better value is this offseason if you're a veteran team? Not even a question. It's Matthew Stafford. You're going to give up multiple first-round picks. You know, the 3, I don't know if you're going to have to give up 3 for Deshaun Watson. if I'm the Texans, I want 3 first-round picks. I already told you. It's going to be an astronomical amount that you're going to have to pay to get Deshaun Watson, and that's the way it should be. We don't see quarterbacks of his stature at this point of his career. The man is literally going into the prime. He's going into the prime of his career. He hasn't even gotten there yet. You're going to pay for this. You're going to pay top dollar for this. Matthew Stafford's 33. He'll be 33 in 2 weeks. You're not going to have to pay top shelf prices. Okay? This is the equivalent of going to the bar. You want that top shelf liquor? You don't want a hangover tomorrow? You're going to pay for that. You're going to pay for that. Now, you can have the same drink, but we're going to give you this well liquor right here. We're going to give you the house liquor. You might wake up with a hangover. You might have a slight headache tomorrow. It'll cost you a hell of a lot less, though. So which is it going to be? I think a lot of teams will pick up the phone and first call for Matthew Stafford before they call for Deshaun Watson. I think New England's going to call for Matthew Stafford before they call for Deshaun Watson. I think the New Orleans Saints are going to call for Matthew Stafford before they call for Deshaun Watson. And let me make something else abundantly clear to you. And I will come back here and I'll offer up a double O. And I don't like doing that very often. But I will tell you in advance that I will offer up a double O if this doesn't go this way. And I stated this last night. I'm going to repeat it here because all of you weren't with me last night when I said this. When trades like this happen, trades of this magnitude that we're going to see with Watson and Stafford, not necessarily with the Jets. They don't care about Sam Darnold. They don't think he's going to come back and scorn them for the next decade. So they could trade him in conference. They don't care about Sam Darnold. But when you talk about a Matthew Stafford, you talk about a Deshaun Watson, they don't want to see these guys once or twice a year. They don't want to see these guys at all. And if we, and I said this last night, if you go back in the Rolodex of trade history, recent trade history, when big trades take place, they don't trade that player in the conference because I don't want to see that guy again. I may have to see him in 4 years when we play the AFC and we have to play that conference. We have to play that particular division. But I don't want to see that guy next year because we got to play that division or because we finished at the same spot of the team in that division. And so we got to play him now and then we might see him again in the postseason. Again. I don't want to see that guy. When you go back all the way to the Khalil Mack trade, could have traded him anywhere. And look, they got a pretty sweet deal. I got to admit, they got a pretty sweet-ass deal. Some sweet action from Chicago. But it's in the NFC. I don't have to see this guy. You think Khalil Mack didn't want to tear the Raiders a new asshole? They didn't have to see him again. It's perfect. I think they've seen him one time since they traded him. And that was over in London last year, I believe it was. You don't want to deal with that guy. You don't want to see him again. How about the, shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. How about the ODB trade? Giants could have moved him anywhere. Traded him to the Browns. Why? That was a pretty sweet deal. You get Jabril Peppers. You get yourself a guard, a good guard. And you get a first-round pick. It's a pretty sweet deal. But, you know what was the nice cherry on top? Hey, he's in the AFC. Get him out of here. I don't have to see his ass 2 times a year. Potentially. I definitely don't have to see him for the foreseeable future. Get him out of here. Send him over to the AFC. How about the Jamal Adams trade? Hey, can't turn down 2 first-round picks for a safety, man. That's some sweet-ass action, okay? That's some sweet action. However, you know they're going to be late first-round picks because the Seahawks are going to be good. And it's the Jets. The Jets are saying, hey, Seattle's in the NFC. We don't have to see Jamal Adams ever again. Maybe once in 3 or 4 years when we got to play the NFC West. But for the most part, We've washed our hands of him. We don't have to see this guy unless we make it to the Super Bowl. Then we'd be glad to see him. How about Stephon Diggs? You see where I'm going with this. They could have traded Stephon Diggs. We heard that it came down to the Patriots and the Bills. Did you want to help the evil empire with Stephon Diggs? Or did you say, nah, we'll trade him to the Bills. They're less dangerous. Well, that's not actually the case anymore. Probably we're better off for everyone involved sending him to New England, where he would have had no quarterback and he probably would have been pissed off right now. But that's nor here nor there. Both AFC teams is what I'm getting at. What I'm telling you is the likelihood of Matthew Stafford ending up in the NFC is slim and none, okay? For all you NFC teams out there, Saints, 49ers, Washington, it sounds good and it's a really good discussion to have, but if we're being realistic, he's more likely to end up in New England or Indianapolis than somewhere in the NFC. Denver, any of those AFC teams, he's more likely. Chicago, take them off the list. They're an NFC team, especially in the division. They're definitely not trading him to the Bears. I just want you guys to understand how these things work and the psychological warfare that is played when these types of transactions are taking place. They know what Stafford is capable of. They know how good he is. They don't want him tormenting them in their same conference. They're going to ship him to the AFC and allow that to be the AFC's problem, not the NFC's problem. Deshawn Watson, more likely than not, and again, things could change, more likely than not, gonna end up on an NFC team. You think the Texans want to trade him to the Jets and have to deal with this guy once, potentially twice a year? Trading him to the Jets this year would mean you'd have to play him this year. The Jets and the Texans both finished in last place of their divisions. Wait, I take that back. The Jaguars finished in last place. So that wouldn't technically be correct. But you don't want to have to face Deshaun Watson as a Jet. You don't want to have to deal with him on your schedule because the AFC South plays the AFC East next year. You don't want to have to deal with that for the next decade. You don't want the Jets in your conference stopping you from getting to the playoffs because the Jets with Deshaun Watson are the 6th seed and you just missed out by one game because the Jets were good enough to get in because Deshaun Watson now has them at 10-6. Or because we'll be playing 17 games next year, 10-7. And you just missed out at 11-6 because Watson has the Jets playing good ball. You much rather make that an NFC problem. Send him to Washington. Send him to the 49ers. Send him to the Saints. Send him to the Bears. Make it their problem, not ours. I'm just telling you, the likelihood of an AFC team getting their hands on Deshaun Watson, slim and none. Now, again, one thing could change all of that. Same thing for the Matthew Stafford situation. One thing could change all of that. Compensation. You really want Matthew Stafford in the NFC? You're going to have to pony up. And your deal is going to have to be 20 to 30% greater than that of an AFC team's deal. You're going to have to overpay to get them to turn down an equal value deal in the AFC. If all things are equal, they're going to trade into the AFC. Now, if you knock their socks off with the deal and they're like, man, they're giving us a 1, 2, and a 3, a 1 and a 2 this year, a 3 next year, and all the Patriots or the Colts want to give us is their first rounder this year. We'll take the 1, 2, and the 3. You can make it really easy on them. You're going to have to sweeten the deal, though. If it's close, if the Patriots say, we'll give you a 1 this year and a 3 next year, and you say, I'll give you a 1, 2, and a 3, That second round pick isn't good enough. I'll just trade him to the AFC. I'd love to have that second round pick, but it's not good enough for me to have to face Matthew Stafford for the next 10 years. I'm good. I'll trade him to the AFC. You're going to have to really sweeten that deal. So, I just wanted to add that into the mix. But in any event, it's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me here on the Louie T Network podcast. As I've mentioned to you guys, thank you for all that you do for the Louie T Network podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And hit that like button, man. Hit that like button. It's 52 likes right now, 130 of you out there. Let's get that thing up to 60 or 70 before you guys exit stage left. Really do appreciate you. There'll be some content out, but who knows when it'll come out this week. You know, we got no ball this week, so there's no guarantees in this thing, right? So at the end of the day, you'll see me at some point this week, but I can't tell you when. I'm working on a lot of things behind the scenes. I'm trying to get this draft Prospects 101 series up, off the ground, and running. So got a lot of things working on that I'm working on behind the scenes. So no telling how this week's going to go. That's why you need to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. That said, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this latest installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Can't wait to chop it up with you guys again. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T. And this has been the Louie T Network podcast. You guys, take care of yourselves, behave yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Louie T.